Part 20. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 200. Ika put the unconscious Ling down against the tree trunk, and her long bangs moved weakly to one side with her head. It seems like a long time has passed. Liu Yin took away his PDA and probably went to find help. Because he believed in her, Ika was able to suppress the irritability in his heart. The sound of footsteps came from the depths of the forest, and the flowing sound came out gently from the shadows. Go this way. Ika silently picked up Ling's body again. Her body temperature was losing little by little. Under Liu Yin's guidance, they avoided the students and instructors of Shiyu Academy and successfully arrived at the place where the ambulance of Shiyu Academy affiliated hospital was waiting. Why did you cause an accident again? Principal Phyllis was also present, after she received a call from Liu Yin. I just used magic to get here. Ika made no excuse at all, just watched silently as Ling was put on the tank. Liu Yin hesitated whether he should speak or not. Principal Felice looked at Ika's lost expression and sighed. It's safe over there, just do whatever you have to do. Philia Academy was not prepared to say anything more. This sentence was enough to let Ika put down a burden. Principal Phyllis, can you leave it to me to handle the rest? Liu Yin made a request to Ika while paying attention to her. In principle, since my student had an accident at Shimizuki Academy, I should bear all the responsibility. If this accident is related to the Nemesis Society, the Holy See cannot sit idly by and ignore it. Liu Yin and Principal Phyllis each held their own opinions, and in the end, Principal Phyllis chose to compromise. It seems that you already have an idea. They are going to the imperial capital with Professor Coconut. Are you going to arrange for Ling to be in the sanctuary? The sanctuary is the safest place in the imperial capital, and it can also be well taken care of. As long as he agrees. Principal Phyllis took one last look at Ika, who had never expressed her stance, and then disappeared from the place. This means that she has entrusted all this matter to Liu Yin. After Principal Phyllis left, Liu Yin called out Ika's name again. Did you hear that, Ika? Is this okay? Liu Yin knew that for Ika, now was not the time to discuss whether to go to the imperial capital. Having known Ika for a while, she knew what kind of character Ika was. Ling's safety and Coconut's commission will both make it difficult for him to make a choice. So Liu Yin helped him find a solution. Thanks. Ika reluctantly smiled at Liu Yin, perhaps to make Liu Yin stop worrying about him, but such a smile would only have the opposite effect. Liu Yin didn't feel at ease at all. Ika's emotions would have an impact on many people, and he himself was completely unaware of it. If they go back like this, it will only increase Luoluo and Wei 11's worries. The Holy Domain is an area managed by the Holy See. I heard from Xiao 11 that Miss Ling no longer hates the Holy See. You can visit her at any time. Well, let's go back. Ika still had that kind of smile on his face. He probably wanted to lighten the atmosphere as much as possible, but he was self-defeating. Liu Yin noticed his tightly clenched fists. He was already trying to suppress his emotions. What I just said to Principal Phyllis is just my guess. I know, the reason lies with me. Luoluo's memory has not been restored, and something like this happened to Ling again. The only one who is safe is me. What are you talking about? Ika finally stopped being silent, but Liu Yin didn't want him to continue talking. It became like this because I was by their side. If we didn't take Wuxi to the Tiburai kingdom, she wouldn't have the memory of being treated roughly, and she could also spend the first long vacation after enrolling with everyone. If she and Luoluo had not acted alone during the Moonflower Festival, she would not have been taken to an inexplicable place and would not have lost her memory. If Ling was not allowed to use magic equipment in August, she would be an ordinary girl now live comfortably in August. There was no one else here except Liu Yin, so Ika wouldn't attract anyone else's attention if she yelled like this. It was the first time Liuyan saw Aika venting her emotions like this. Even if they were living together, they would be shocked when they saw Aika's current appearance. At this time, Aika was like a child who had lost his toy, distressed until he could not say anything. He finished speaking in one breath, then gasped and stared at his feet. After saying everything, the rage boiling in his heart finally subsided a little, and he realized that he was venting to the wrong person. Liuyan did nothing wrong and was very helpful. There was a hint of timidity in her eyes as she looked at herself, which was the consequence of her own doing. Although Liuyan always looks reliable, in fact she is just a child the same age as Wuxi. Screwed up again, after regaining consciousness, Aika didn't dare to look up at the girl who was 4 years younger than herself. He had obviously thought so much about helping me, but he didn't even say thank you properly. The two PDAs in Liuyan's hands sounded a notification tone indicating that they had received text messages. After the sound fell, there was the sound of flowing sound. Is this more comfortable? She did not blame Aika, nor was she impatient with Aika's attitude, but simply forgave him for his rude behavior. Ever since Xioxi came back from Tiburai Kingdom, she has been showing off to me the life she lived with you there. Although it was not until a few days after Wei 11 returned that Liuyan found the opportunity to come to the administrator's cabin to meet Wei 11, they had been in contact with each other every night before that. I don't know much about Luo Luo, but when we met in the morning, she didn't feel any different from usual. At least, that smile was not fake. Liuyan knew that she didn't know Luo Luo as well as Aika, and she believed that Aika couldn't even notice this. As for Ling's magic costume, even if it is hidden from the Senate, it is impossible to hide it from other people who are paying attention to her. The Holy See and the Nemesis Society both know the facts and may be able to escape this incident, but they cannot hide forever. This is not a future that Aika can change with her efforts. At that time, whether it is the Holy See, Augustus, or an organization like the Nemesis Society, they will reach out to her without hesitation. In this attack, Ling's wounds avoided the fatal part. This was not a mistake by the other party, but a deliberate attempt to keep Ling in this critical state. This was a purposeful attack, but Liuyan did not tell Aika where he found it. So, please don't show this emotion in front of them. Liuyan took out her own handkerchief, the same style that she and Wei 11 chose. Aika watched blankly as Liuyan used a handkerchief to wipe off the dirt and blood on his fingers. His eyes finally regained their vitality. Sorry. I'm thinking about Xiao 11, Liuyan put the handkerchief into Aika's hand after wiping off the stain, wash it clean and return it to me. Even so, thank you for doing so much for me. I just want to help you for Xiao 11's sake. Yes, Aika noticed Liuyan's blushing cheeks. After teasing her like this, she felt much better. Did they just send a text message? That's most likely it. Liuyan returned Aika's PDA to him. Sure enough, it was a text message sent by Luo Luo on behalf of everyone. This kind of thing cannot be explained clearly using text messages. Go back, otherwise they will come looking worried. You finally understand what to do. Looking at Aika's stretched out hand, Liuyan looked confused. Ah, I'm sorry. Aika immediately retracted her hand in embarrassment. Because of that, you and Wei 11 are quite similar, so naturally. Why are you so skilled? How many times have you and Xiao 11 held hands? Liuyan suddenly became angry, and for a strange reason. We don't hold hands often. Occasionally there are times when we need it. Sure enough, I shouldn't have handed Xiao 11 over to you. Liuyan vented her anger and kicked Aika's calf hard. This was the second time she kicked her calf today. Speaking of which, Wei 11 is always snatched away by everyone. Is there anyone else pursuing Xioxi besides you? I mean Ling and Luo Luo. Think about it, living together will occasionally cause that kind of situation. I don't understand what you're talking about at all. Returning to Professor Kokina's research room, Ika first calmly told everyone about Ling's situation. If Ika himself had not explained so calmly, Luoluo and Wei 11 would have been even more excited than they are now. Let's wait until Ling wakes up and ask what exactly happened. Ika used this sentence to remind everyone not to think about Ling's affairs for the time being. Luoluo and Wixi didn't seem to fully accept it. The Vatican's aviation magic ship has already arrived here. I will send her to the sanctuary where the Vatican is located. There are good treatment equipment there, and it is a safer place than Augustus. You can come and see her at any time. After hearing Liu Yin's last addition, Luoluo and Wei 11's expressions became much more relaxed. Sister Ling, you will definitely wake up. Luoluo's hands clasped uneasily from time to time, and Ika didn't know whether he should say comforting words to her at this time, such as yes, I will definitely do it. I want to say this, but I can't. Yes, it will definitely happen. Ika suddenly realized that Wei 11 held Luoluo's hand with her own. She can already say this on behalf of Ika. There was a hint of loneliness in Liu Yin's eyes when she looked at Wei 11, but more of it was the joy of seeing her grow. Even if Ika didn't hold Luoluo's hands at this moment, he knew the cold feeling. Normally, Luoluo would always hold herself with her warm little hands and support herself to move forward step after step. But when Luoluo encounters a horizontal ditch that she cannot cross alone, she will try her best to avoid meeting Ika and usually hide in her room for a long time. By chance, Ika noticed that her hands would lose the warmth at such times, and Luoluo also knew that the secret had been exposed to Ika. Taking this as an opportunity, Luoluo knew that avoidance had lost its meaning. Although she still didn't want Ika to see her ugly face when she was frustrated, she would no longer lock herself in the room. Anyway, let's go to the imperial capital with Kokina first. The distance between the sanctuary and the Imperial Capital Defense Bureau is not far. If you stay at my house, you can get there in more than 10 minutes. Liu Yin was immersed in the emotion for only a short moment, and she immediately made arrangements for her next actions. Wait, I should be the one to arrange the itinerary, right? Why is Xiaoan in charge? Kokina, who had been silent until now, protested. Seeing Wei 11 and Luoluo's depressed expressions before, it was not convenient for her to speak. As for the imperial capital, am I more familiar with it than you are? That's true. I have been at Shimatsuki Academy since I came out of the sanctuary. Professor Kokina was refuted by Xiaoan's words and lost the momentum of the argument. It's been a long time since Kokina left the sanctuary. Probably in order to shift the topic away from Ling, Wei 11, who had worked with Kokina, also intervened in the conversation. At that time, Xiao 11 was still crying and didn't want me to leave. Please wait, I should, never said that. Wei 11 shook her hands and strongly insisted that she had never done such a childish behavior. That's what I remember, Xiaoan, do you still remember it? Professor Kokina dropped the topic to Liu Yin again. I'm sorry, our world line has deviated. Xiaoxi and I were together at that time, and we didn't receive the notice until a day after you left. Xiaoan is too much. And, you didn't tell us when you left, and you weren't in the room when I went to find you at night. As if recalling her mood at that time, water drops overflowed from the corners of Wei 11's eyes. Xiao 11. It's like that. The Holy See here offered very high conditions, and then that person kicked me out without saying a word. He said he wanted me to go out and gain experience, I was pushed directly by him. Shimazuki Academy's aviation guided ship. Professor Kokina didn't expect Wei 11 to cry. The joking attitude just now collapsed immediately, and she danced and explained to Wei 11 with lame excuses. Besides, I couldn't contact you for a long time after that. It was only when I came to see you in person that I found out that the contact address had been changed. Liu Yin mercilessly exposed Professor Kokina's evil deeds once again. This is what that person did, it's not me who's wrong. He. The argument between Liuyan and Professor Kokina about revealing the wound in one direction made Wei 11 burst into tears and laugh. I feel relieved knowing that you are still the same as before. Wei 11's first meeting after Professor Kokina left the Holy See was Professor Kokina's initiative to contact her. She had previously obtained Wei 11's mailing address from Liuyan, and then recorded it in the few contacts. Luoluo also remembered Wei 11's panicked behavior when she received Professor Kokina's first contact, and she couldn't help but smile. Although the direction of the topic has shifted, Aika feels it is enough to restore Luoluo's smile. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 201. Liuyan, when do we set off? Now he can only believe Liuyan and send Ling to the Holy See for treatment. This is not a problem that can be solved by just worrying. Instead of wasting time worrying, it is better to solve the matter in front of you in one go. After Ling wakes up, he will make up for the time she didn't spend together. The aviation magic ship that was arranged to pick us up here is now going to pick up Ling. There happens to be another ship in the nearby airspace preparing to return, but it will take about 2 hours. Liuyan could no longer reach the Imperial Capital Defense Bureau within the agreed time. When can I go see Sister Ling? Although Luoluo did not show a bitter expression, his voice still lost its usual vitality. Actually, you can see her as soon as you arrive in the Imperial Capital. I still have the right to let you enter the sanctuary, it's just that it would be better to wait until her situation settles down before visiting her. My brother and Xiaoan should have some reservations in what they said. Sister Ling's injury is not that optimistic. You can tell from the expression on my brother's face when he walked in. Luoluo's accusation made Aika's heart tremble suddenly. Under Liuyan's supervision, he tried his best to look optimistic, and there should be nothing that would be obvious. But it is impossible to hide it from others, but it is also impossible to hide it from the eyes of one's own sister. Pretense is still a pretense, a false thing that can be shattered at the touch of a finger. Even if Luoluo loses his memory, his intuition after living together for more than 10 years cannot be fooled by the disguise of improvisation. She didn't mean to waste Aika's hard work in pretending. Aika's disguise has already worked. If he were suddenly told that Ling was seriously injured, chaos would inevitably ensue. And Aika's disguised attitude made everyone mentally prepared in advance. Aika looked at Liuyan, she nodded slightly hesitantly, and then Aika explained Ling's situation to everyone again. When the medical staff arrived, she had suffered severe blood loss and needed a large amount of blood transfusion to maintain her life. How come? Luoluo covered her mouth, and then she choked back the sound that almost came out. Although I was mentally prepared and had guessed a similar situation, after actually hearing it from Aika's mouth, I couldn't control my emotions. I just received a text message from the Vatican's aviation magic ship. Ling's life is no longer in danger. The wound has been treated at the affiliated hospital of Xuanjiao Academy. The Vatican also has experts in healing magic and potion magic, so there is no need to worry too much. After hearing this, Luoluo lowered his eyes. She is a pharmacy student. Healing magic and potion magic are her majors, but she is of no use when her family needs them. Aika also noticed the changes in Luoluo's expression, and her inner feelings could not be hidden in front of Aika. But what words should be said to comfort her? Aika doesn't know now, because he can't even forgive himself. It was Liuyan who pulled him out of the quagmire of self-blame. Ah, they are here. Liuyan glanced at his PDA, the aviation magic ship has landed at Shimazuki Academy's airport, get ready to leave. If you can't find something to do, everyone will remain depressed. Liuyan has been waiting for such an opportunity. Professor Kokina stood up immediately after Liuyan. Wait a minute, I'll get the terminal. The necessary equipment for repairing the machine is provided by the Imperial City Defense Bureau, so Professor Kokina only needs to bring a private terminal. The terminal is 5 or 6 times larger than a PDA, and Aika has never seen Professor Kokina use this machine in the laboratory. Give me all your luggage. Ling and Wei 11's luggage was only the size of a backpack, and Luoluo's luggage was similar, with only some necessary clothing. This weight was acceptable for Aika. The aviation magic ship departed from Shimizuki Academy and flew over the half-day journey required by civilian airships in only 2 hours. After landing at the airport on the edge of the sanctuary, Shun has been waiting here for a long time. Then it's up to you to lead the way. Liuyan left these words to Shun and hurriedly followed the other Holy Sea Knights who came down and entered the sanctuary. What happened? Master seems to be very anxious today. In a blink of an eye, Liuyan's background disappeared, and he scratched his gray hair that stood on end in confusion. You are like this too. Feeling the gloomy atmosphere among everyone, Shun became even more confused. Hey, is there one less person than planned? Didn't Ling come with you? Brother Shun, Ling is with Liuyan now, let's talk while we walk. In the car driving to the Imperial City Defense Bureau, Aika briefly explained to Shun the situation in which Ling was attacked in the forests surrounding Shigetsutsu Academy. Such a thing happened. There was silence in the car. Let's complete the commission now. Sister Ling definitely doesn't want to affect everyone because of herself. After taking such a long time to adjust her mentality, Luoluo's mood has gradually calmed down. After Sister Ling wakes up, we can't let her worry. Actually, for me, it doesn't matter whether there are guards or not, it's just that the procedures must be arranged this way. Professor Kokina said this out of consideration for everyone's mood, because she was the one who initially said she needed protection. Nowadays, it is impossible to trouble everyone with a playful mentality. Professor Kokina also hopes that they can spend more time taking care of Ling. Professor Kokina, how long are the expected working hours? Shun had already introduced himself to Professor Kokina before getting in the car, and he would be fully responsible for Professor Kokina's work until it was completed. Well, I haven't been to the underground of the Imperial City Defense Bureau. I have to take a look before I know. Even as a genius in magic mechanics, Professor Kokina cannot make any conclusions about unknown things. The distance from the Holy Land to the Imperial City Defense Bureau was indeed not far, and it didn't take long for the car to stop. When Aika and the others followed Shun and approached the Imperial Capital Defense Bureau, they attracted a lot of attention. When everyone first entered the Imperial Capital, they walked into the Imperial Capital Defense Bureau for the first time because of the rail explosion incident. Then during the search for the Nemesis Society, Ling and Tailua directly caused riots here. It is because of all the commotion that some people here have remembered their appearance. Oh, Aika, you seem to be celebrities here. Professor Kokina, who came here for the first time, also noticed the sights around her. Although not in a good sense. Aika smiled bitterly. There is a gate next to the public elevator. After passing the fingerprint verification instantly, the gate rises vertically. There is still a place like this. Aika followed Shun into the gate, and inside was a closed elevator. After entering a long password, the elevator door slowly opened. This elevator is completely opposite to the public elevator. There are only buttons for traveling between the underground and this level. The underground of the Imperial City Defense Bureau are all secrets of the Bis Empire, so the security facilities have been improved. It looks good. Professor Kokina looked around, her eyes seemed to be interested. The elevator took everyone to the underground of the Imperial Capital Defense Bureau and stopped on the 4th underground floor. Here we are, this is the lowest level of the Imperial City Defense Bureau and the most important database. The metallic glossy passage is completely illuminated overhead. There are no cameras set up outside. All the cameras installed here are pinhole cameras that are difficult to detect and destroy. Shun stopped in front of the door at the end. This is a barrier. Wei 11 immediately discovered that the 3 huge mechanical locks on the door were just auxiliary devices, and the real door lock was a barrier covering the entire corridor. My intuition is good. Shun smiled at Wei 11, passed the verification of the terminal's irises and magic ripples, and then used a special dispelling magic on the barrier. The barrier temporarily lost its effectiveness, and the three huge mechanical locks on the door slid into the grooves at both ends with the roaring gear vibration. Okay, only 2 people can enter at a time. Besides Professor Coconut, who else is coming with us? Shun's eyes swept over the people in front of him. I'll do it first. Brother Shun, can you please send Lugo and Wei 11 back? No problem. Shun readily accepted the task. Brother, you will come back immediately after this is over. Okay, alright. Because he had been thinking about Ling's situation, Aika had forgotten the most important thing until just now. Luo's memory has not yet recovered. Now she will call herself brother just because he admitted the relationship between the two, and the problem has not been fundamentally solved. Before Luo's memory could be recovered, Ling was seriously injured and fell into coma, which made matters worse. It doesn't matter to me, brother. I don't know if Luo saw Aika's thoughts. She stretched out her hand and caressed Aika's cheek. I will wait patiently. This sentence of waiting has more than 2 meanings. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 202. After Shun took Luo and Wei 11 out of the 4th underground floor, Professor Coconut entered the control room behind the door, and Aika quickly followed her in. There was no noise in the control room on the 4th underground floor of the Imperial City Defense Bureau. Huge black server boxes were neatly arranged, and tens of thousands of indicator lights of different colors flickered on and off. I don't feel hot at all. Ordinary cases use built-in fans to dissipate heat, and the heat will be discharged outside the case. Professor Coconut's laboratory still feels warm even if the heater is not turned on in winter. But this room didn't feel stuffy, instead it had a hint of coolness. Servers of this size are cooled by liquid nitrogen, and the place is not completely closed. There is a sense of magic flowing. Yes, so be it. Aika's perception of magic power is very low, which was pointed out by Ling a long time ago. Therefore, he did not feel the flow of magic power mentioned by Professor Coconut at all. Don't touch it everywhere. If any protective equipment is accidentally activated, we will all die here. Okay, okay. When Professor Coconut looked at her sideways, Aika could only obediently take back her hand that wanted to feel the unknown technology. Speaking of which, this place was invaded by strange people a week or 2 ago, so I was asked to repair it this time. This kind of thing was not reported in the news, and Aika did hear that the Imperial City was in a period of chaos at that time. Someone who can even invade the Imperial City Defense Bureau will have unimaginable consequences. However, the protective equipment here is quite powerful. It is said that one person can defeat several teams of intruders and was caught by it. So dangerous. Aika was glad that she didn't touch the case casually just now. After Professor Coconut stepped over the cables wrapped on the ground and walked through the maze of chassis for a while, Professor Coconut finally stopped. This should be the core of the entire system. In front of the 2 of them was a huge crystal column placed erected, with the upper and lower ends suspended on a pedestal painted with a magic circle. When she was close enough to the pedestal, Aika could already feel the weak flow of magic power. Directly in front of the pedestal is a console as tall as a person. Professor Coconut took out the terminal Aika was carrying and connected it to the console with a cable. Nothing is shown. Sure enough, this won't work. Professor Coconut unplugged the cable in disappointment, and instead of putting the terminal back into Aika's bag, she hugged it to her chest. Are the chassis here all magic machines? That's right. By the way, do you know what the difference is between magic and wizardry? Professor Coconut asked Aika while pacing the maze of computer cases. These 2 nouns often appear in daily life, but Ika couldn't answer them for a while. Powers that cannot be explained by science are interpreted as magic. The human body is a magic reservoir, magic is everywhere, and magic can be absorbed from the air just by breathing. Modern medicine cannot use the theory of why the human body needs oxygen to explain the human body's need for magic power, but magic power is indeed as important as oxygen, and excessive lack of magic power can also lead to life danger. Therefore, magicians have unwritten constraints, that is, they must not completely use up their magic power. After consuming a large amount of magic power, the body will naturally enter shock. Magic has existed since the world was formed, while magic is a term that only appeared during cross-border wars. Blending magic with science, it breaks down the old concepts of magic. The molecular power furnace carries digitized magic formulas, and even people without magic talents can use the corresponding magic. However, not all magic formulas can be digitized. The currently analyzed magic formulas are only 1/10,000th, and they are basically based on simple element conversions. Therefore, the title Magister does not replace magician. The standard of national magician still depends on the individual's magical strength. This is what Ika learned in the modern history class. Although he did not remember many details, Lululo and Way 11 should be able to give more accurate answers. Well, it's a very standard answer. It's exactly what's in the textbook, right? It is true that there is no clear distinction between magic and magic, but it is not as simple as merging magic and science to become magic. But you can understand it now. Professor Kokina was not dissatisfied with Ika's blunt explanation. She had already expected Ika to give such an answer. All the currently known magic equipment can be classified within the scope of magic guidance. The operating principle is not very clear yet, so it is impossible to dismantle the magic equipment, right? But isn't the molecular power furnace based on the inner core of the magic suit? Ika remembered that Professor Kokina once said similar words to herself, but now she contradicted herself. Well, it can indeed be said to be a prototype. Isn't there a crest-like thing inside the magic suit? Other users have said so. Only by connecting one's own magic power with the crest can one use the magic suit. That's it. The first time Ika learned about the existence of heraldry was when she was taught by Uncle Gurley in PFA Town. So someone came up with an idea, and that's how the molecular power furnace was built. How should I put it, it feels very casual. Although Professor Kokina's explanation was understated, the development process must have been very difficult. Nowadays, the outside world's understanding of magic equipment is that one is a very powerful magic equipment, and the other is a status symbol. Other than that, there should be no other opinions. Ika herself falls into the former category. It should be here. Professor Kokina said and stopped. This is already the end of the room, and Professor Kokina seems to be able to find the core of the data group from the seemingly disorderly arrangement of server boxes. She gently touched the surface of the chassis with her fingers, and dozens of pink simulation windows spread out around her. Developed by Professor Kokina himself, this is pure analytical magic that can know the internal structure of any machine. Well, we can start from here. After cancelling the analysis magic, Professor Kokina knelt down in front of the computer case and connected his terminal to the interface in front of him. By the way, it may take a day or two here. I will return to Liu-Yin's home in the evening, and there is no need for you to stay here. Just help me prepare things that can sustain my life later. What she calls life-sustaining things probably refers to food and water. In case of emergency. If there is an emergency here, only people from outside can help. And I need to concentrate to end it quickly. When I end it here, you need to resolve the matter over there quickly. On the surface, Professor Kokina was not too touched by Ling's injuries, but in fact this was not the case. I understand, I'll come back later. Now that I have accepted Professor Kokina's kindness, I can no longer hesitate. After sending back the food that kept Professor Coconut alive, Ika made an agreement with her to pick her up at night. Just leave all matters of the Imperial City Defense Bureau to Professor Coconut, I still have things I must do. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 203. Before setting off for the sanctuary, Ika got in touch with Liu Yin. Because there is something she wants to know now, but Wei 11 has a very subtle relationship with the Holy See, so she did not tell Luo and Wei 11 about this trip. Now, everything that can be done has been done, and the wounds have been healed faster with healing magic, but they haven't woken up yet. Liu Yin told Ika roughly about Ling's current situation by text message. The sanctuary has allowed Ika to enter and leave freely, and now Ika is thinking about how to get to the sanctuary. There is no regional train that can go directly to the sanctuary. You can only get off the train at a relatively close place and then choose to walk. Shun won't be back for a while, and Luo and Wei 11 still need his help. Although I could find an empty car at the Imperial City Defense Bureau with my instant connections, I had no driving experience. After checking the map of the Imperial capital and asking passers-by, Ika got on the regional train that would pass through the Holy Land. While waiting to arrive, he made another request to Liu Yin. After walking for nearly half an hour, Ika arrived at the high wall of the sanctuary with tired steps. Like Augustus, the sacred area is clearly separated from the general area. The side door next to the city gate is where Ika and Liu Yin made an appointment. Without Liu Yin to lead the way, he would definitely get lost in the sanctuary. Use a text message to tell Liu Yin that he was waiting here until he saw her figure, which was only a few minutes. Ika, you are so rude when you make requests. Actually, I have already had this idea. I can only ask you for help. Ika knew that Liu Yin had done a lot for her unconditionally, but she was unable to do anything for her, so she naturally felt a little ashamed. And actually meeting the Pope directly, the conditions are too high. I remember that you and Wei 11 once called him Dad, so I think the relationship should be very good. It's not because we have a good relationship, and I've never used this title in the Holy See. Liu Yin glanced at the driver's seat. Fortunately, the front and rear seats of the car were covered by soundproof panels. Now the two were sitting side by side in the passenger seat, and the knight responsible for driving seemed to be Liu Yin's subordinate knight. So, is that okay? Ika wished to meet with the Pope, and this was another of his requests. When I asked Liu Yin before, I didn't get a positive answer. Even if you want to meet privately, you still need to apply, Ika thought. To be honest, he himself was not sure that he could get the Pope to focus on him and take time out of his busy schedule to meet with him. Although he once used Tutor Tara's omniscience ability to meet the Pope in a dreamlike past, the two had no intersection in reality. So Ika could only place her hope on the words she asked Liu Yin to tell her. Let's talk about the results first. We have already received the consent. Now we will take you directly to the Pope's residence. Very good. As long as we can meet once, everything will go on smoothly. That date is when the incident at the Heinz family happened, right? Although Liu Yin did not directly participate in the mission, he still knew the time of execution. After all, it was Wei 11's first mission. That's right. And there are specific moments, did you hear these from Ling? Well, that's it. Liu Yin didn't know that he and Ling had gone back to the past. Ika only told Liu Yin the results of the reconciliation between Ling and the Holy See. He didn't deliberately hide it from Liu Yin, but there were still many unknowns and he couldn't speak too clearly for the time being. Oh. Liu Yin echoed as if he was not interested, so, what are you going to talk to the Pope about? Isn't that matter already clear? Wei 11's words mentioned Ling's apology to herself, indicating that the entanglement between Ling and the Holy See had been resolved. But this is only a one-way reconciliation. From the perspective of the Holy See, it is the prisoners who were once hunted who took the initiative to return to the net. Because the person who coordinated the relationship between Ling and the Holy See was Liuyan, Ika did not stop him when Liuyan and Principal Felice decided whether Ling should stay or go. I still have some things that I care about that I can't express well right now. If I can get the answer from meeting with the Pope today, I will tell you well after that. Sorry. Although he was clearly asking for something from her now, he still had to maintain this secretive attitude. The only thing Ika could say to her was to apologize. Actually, you don't need to apologize to me. It's not something you particularly want to know. If you didn't want to know, you wouldn't ask so many questions. She probably prefers talking about Way 11 than this kind of thing. The locomotive stopped beside a courtyard. There is a barrier here for protection. I will go in with you. Liuyan, who got off the car behind Ika, said something to his subordinate knight, and the motorcycle slowly disappeared from their sight. Follow me. Liuyan stretched out his hand to Ika. In this scene, Ika felt a sense of déjà vu. Holding hands. Liuyan's eyes wandered, and the ends of his fingers were trembling slightly. I can pass this barrier, but you can't, so you have to hold my hand to go in together. When she was at Shimizuki Academy, Ika once reached out to Liuyan, but at that time she was fooled by Way 11's topic. Since it was her who reached out her hand, it wouldn't be rude to hold it. Ika responded to her waiting, as small as Way 11's hand, warm and soft. Liuyan didn't say anything more, but dragged Ika forward with brute force, as if he wanted to end the state as soon as possible. I'm sorry, because it's necessary. Ika relaxed her fingers and let Liuyan pull her. If you hate it, you can just let go after entering the barrier. Considering Liuyan's mood, Ika did not restrain Liuyan with a handshake. As long as Liuyan took the initiative to let go, the two could separate immediately. It's not that I hate it. Although she was walking beside him, her voice was as quiet as a mosquito. She and Way 11 had very similar attitudes towards this issue. This is my first time holding hands with a boy like this. It makes sense to think about it this way. Actually, I have something to tell you. She seemed to have passed the barrier. She always turned her side face towards Ika, and her little ears hidden under her silver hair were already hot. After the meeting with the Pope is over, let's talk about it. I don't know when, Liuyan had let go of Ika's hand. Liuyan did not enter the room with Ika, she just silently led Ika to the meeting room. I can only send you here. I don't need to know the content of your conversation with the Pope. I will wait for you in the courtyard. After Liuyan finished speaking, Ika was left here. There was no trace of wavering in her tone, as if she had forgotten the profound speech she had just made. Or maybe it was Ika's illusion. Maybe what Liuyan wanted to say to herself was just about Way 11. But at this age, Ika was very shaken, because he cared deeply about those profound words. Liuyan, who had her back turned to Ika, suddenly turned around and noticed the sight from behind. What are you up to? She questioned Ika with suspicious eyes and words, but Ika could only hide her inner panic and pretend to be calm. I was thinking about what I should say when I get in. Did you propose to meet with the Pope without any preparation? Liuyan immediately ran back with a bang. Apart from the Pope himself, there were no guards in this mansion, so Liuyan was not rigid in his attitude. So start thinking about it now. In fact, he had already prepared all the questions, he just said a few more words to Liuyan in order to cover up his lies. I really can't stand you. Liuyan sighed heavily. Do you need me to go in with you? Thank you, there's no need for that. I'd better solve my problem by myself. It was originally just to get over the shameful fact that he had been looking at Liuyan's back, but in the end he turned to asking a child to cheer him up, and Ika's inner shame level rose again. The Pope probably didn't want me to know what happened at that time, so when you contacted Augustus, I couldn't help you at all. There is no such thing. You were already of great help at that time. But I didn't tell you anything. Whether it is true or not, you believe that the Holy See will not do that kind of thing. This has given us all great peace of mind. But I believe this possibility exists. This is not that I am protecting the Holy See, but that's just my personal opinion, a sentence without any basis. Those words can only be convincing if they come from your mouth. Is that so? Liu Yan blinked his big watery eyes with an expression of incomprehension. She probably still doesn't understand what she did to deserve Ika's thanks. That's it, I'll go in first. Ika touched Liu Yan's little head. This time, she didn't kick Ika's calf as hard as before. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 204. The Pope did not show any impatience because Ika kept him waiting for a long time. Subjectively, this was the first time he met Ika. This was the second time Ika met him, and she didn't feel as nervous as the first time. Even when they met for the first time, Ika didn't show any hesitation. At that time, it was because I knew that dreams would not have any impact on reality, so I didn't act with any restraint. But now, both of them are in the real world, and their every word and deed will change the possible direction of the future. We should already know each other, but let's introduce ourselves. I am the administrator of the sanctuary, Sethis. The Pope did not say this because he knew what happened in the dream. Ika was looking for herself because of that incident, so she must have been ready to meet herself. And he himself caused that level of commotion in August. Hello, His Holiness Pope Thetis. Ika bowed respectfully, which was the meeting etiquette Liu Yan taught him on the way here. Ika Chiz, right. Ika did not reveal his surname, but of course this information would not escape the ears of the top administrators of the Holy See, so Ika was not too surprised. Sethis walked from the bookshelf to the table in the center of the room and motioned for Ika to sit opposite him. Even if you don't use that roundabout hint, I will agree to meet you. Ika followed Sethis's wishes and sat down, just as the two of them looked at each other in a dream and sat down again in reality. Is it because of Ling? When I asked Liu Yan to bring Ling Heinz and Wei 11 back to the church, you even fought hard, but now you took the initiative to send her here. There must be a very deep reason for this. This kind of problem only requires simple reasoning to figure this out. Yes, Sir Sethis, there is a question I want to know no matter what. What do you think? Why do you want Augustus to think that Ling has lost his magic outfit? Sorry, I can't answer this question for you. The first question was a setback, and Ika had already expected that the answer would not go as smoothly as expected. But now I cannot explain everything I saw and heard in the dream. Even if the relationship between the Holy See and Augustus is indeed not good, it does not mean that there is no beneficial cooperation between the two. If you know too many secrets, there is no guarantee that the Holy See will also regard you as a thorn in its side. Ika had not yet realized that the Pope had begun to pay attention to his movements a long time ago. Liu Yan often tells me about you. Sethis suddenly said this without any warning, because it had nothing to do with the current problem, so Ika didn't react at all. Even though she stayed in bed for a long time because of you, it is incredible that she was not angry at all. I can understand that she felt at ease because of Wei 11, but after she came into contact with you several times, she felt a big change. Liu Yan. The topic of conversation suddenly shifted to the girl who led the way for him. Ika didn't know how to answer Sethis's words, so she could only listen to his emotional statement. You are the second person who can get that kid so much attention. Ika certainly knows what position Wei 11 occupies in Liu Yan's heart, and it must not be like this for her. But when the person Liu Yan called Dad said this, Ika could only accept it with suspicion. Hearing Sethis's words, Ika was quietly excited. I really haven't done anything for her. This statement, has she already said something similar to you? Sethis asked as if he was teasing Ika. I haven't, said. All speculations about Liu-Yin's mood were his own wishful thinking. Ika didn't know how Liu-Yin viewed him. Liu-Yin said that after the conversation with the Pope, there was something he always wanted to say to himself. Ika was no exception. Although she had a reasonable reason to protect Ling and Wei 11 when she first met Liu-Yin, she was still seriously injured despite not having any malicious intentions. When we met by chance in front of her mansion, we didn't say anything because of the subtle relationship between everyone and her. After that, opportunities to meet directly became few and far between. In the dream, Sethes always had a serious look on his face. He thought that this conversation would also be shrouded in this atmosphere, so Ika was mentally prepared. However, Sethes did not behave as he expected, as if he was just a father solving the psychological troubles of adolescence for his children. "You came to me because you had some problem, right?" Sethes temporarily dropped the topic of Liu-Yin and changed the topic back on track. "The time you asked Liu-Yin to tell me was when I was Miss Ling will not know the time of the interview with the parents of the Heinz family." As a person involved in the question that Liu-Yin had, Sethes knew the answer. He deliberately left Wei 11 elsewhere in the village at that time, so it was impossible for Ika to know this time through her. "Your Excellency Sethes, since you can't tell me the reason for the discrepancy in the information between the Holy See and Augustus, can you tell me what the Holy See's attitude towards magic equipment is?" Ika once asked Lan Ming, a member of the royal family, this question. From the perspective of the royal family, magic equipment is one of the important ways to increase national strength. The Holy See and Augustus have different responsibilities. Strictly speaking, the Holy Land does not belong to the Bis Empire. In the cross-border war, the girl who ended the war as a representative of mankind was hailed as a saint by later generations, and the establishment of the sanctuary was based on mankind's belief in the saint. I can answer this question for you. But before I answer, I would like to know how much you know about magic equipment. So far, Sethes has either refused to answer Ika's questions or ask rhetorical questions, but has never given a clear answer. Ika, who was not sure that the Pope would not become an enemy, was half confident and could not directly explain what he was thinking in his heart. So the topic fundamentally goes nowhere. Ika's understanding of magic equipment is limited to the statements in the textbook and some of his own feelings when using it. A very powerful magic equipment. This is Ika's general understanding of magic equipment. It seems that you have no understanding of your own weapons and your own family. Thetis pointed this out keenly from Ika's brief description. Where should we start first? Sethes pondered for a moment, thinking about what he could tell Ika now. The Chiz family and the Heinz family are called the Bis Twin Towers. You made outstanding achievements in the war, but now both are in decline. Have your family told you the reason? The crime of treason. Ika murmured the term he had never dared to admit. You already know. My family has never told me about this kind of thing, and Luoluo probably doesn't know either. So, is it because of the Nemesis Society? Excluding his family's notification, Sethes simply thought of this possibility. The history of the cross-border war has been concealed by August, and it is impossible to learn the true history through normal channels. When did you hear that from them? Sethes immediately asked. A year ago, there was an explosion on the railway tracks in the imperial capital. We also participated in the investigation of that accident. That's when one of them told me. The man in white used the realm to separate himself and Luoluo from the real world, where he told the real reason for the family's decline and extended an invitation to the two. If you are not willing to accept this false accusation, then become our comrade. If Luoluo hadn't held her hand tightly at that time, maybe she would have been changed now. Ika has been hiding the contradiction in her heart since a year ago. Luoluo never mentioned this matter again, as if he had completely forgotten it. Is there nothing in the world? After listening to Ika's words, Sethes' expression became very complicated. Sir Seth, the Chiz family and the Heinz family are really for this reason. His words are true. He hid the true history in order to keep the heroes in the hearts of the people from fading and to maintain their faith, but this is not the case. But it's not clear whether this accusation is false. The Nemesis Society uses such words to win over people's hearts. This possibility also exists. Sethi said seriously, the true history that the Holy See can investigate only stops here. The reason why the Chiz and Heinz families fell was because they committed rebellion at the end of the cross-border war. At that time, the BZ Empire did not exist, and there was only the collective humanity, so their rebellion was a rebellion against the humanity race. There is no record of the cause of the rebellion. All that is known is the result. The process that led to this result is still hidden in the fog. Even so, you have established friendly relations with the royal family. Why? Sethis was referring to the relationship between himself and Lan Ming. He was invited to go to Augustus, and it was impossible for the Holy See not to get any information. Because she has no connection with my family in this era. I don't know if such remarks are biased in favor of Lan Ming, but I can't find a more suitable reason. Ika doesn't know the real reason. At the beginning of their journey with Luoluo, they heard from Uncle Gurley in PFA town that their family was a noble, but they had no real idea. Then, Liu Yin also said similar words, and the Nemesis Society came to find him, and Ika had to believe it. Despite this, in his mind, his hometown is still that small village. The man in white said he was unwilling, but he didn't feel that way at all. But he couldn't deny that after contacting the man in white, he had a slightly different view of the BZ Empire. When meeting Lan Ming, Ika immediately understood the ugliness of the power struggle within the BZ Empire. But in the process of contact with Lan Ming, he couldn't bring up any hatred. Lan Ming and Xiaoluo's hearts were purely for the citizens of the BZ Empire. His first contact with the royal family filled his heart with contradictions. In the end, he could only choose to treat the problems separately. Whether the past history is true or not is no longer important, the duality of the BZ Empire has been nakedly displayed in front of itself. As long as there is light, there must be darkness to accompany it. After understanding this sentence personally, Ika chose to side with Lan Ming. Such thoughts are rare nowadays. If you only think about revenge, you will become like the Nemesis Society. What does the revenge of the Nemesis Society mean? When they first wooed them, their idea was revenge. But Ika, who has no personal experience, cannot ignite the desire for revenge. The Order of Nemesis is a small group of old nobles. Sethi said slowly. Old nobility. The Chiz family and the Heinz family can also be called old nobles. The so-called old nobles are a group of people who made significant contributions to mankind after the cross-border war and before the establishment of an independent country, but finally left mankind. Why, leave humans? The reason is unknown, but most of these people hate humans. They gathered together and became a small organization. While attracting like-minded companions, they gradually built up enough power to confront the country. You mean, there are many more organizations like Nemesis? The information revealed by Sethis shocked Ika. Now they may all be part of the Nemesis Society. At least the only organization that surfaces from time to time is the Nemesis Society. Is that why we are being targeted by them? Before knowing the purpose of the Nemesis Society, Ika could never figure out this problem. Why is the Nemesis Society so persistent with everyone, and even saved itself from the armed occupation of the Technology Party in the Kingdom of Tiburai? Even though the Nemesis Society had an inescapable pain, Ika still couldn't approve of their chosen course of action. Revenge is like a chain. To survive in the Viper's den, you must fight fire with fire. Sethi seemed to read Ika's inner thoughts from his expression, and expressed his vague opinions for him. If it is true, as they say, that the Chiz family and the Heinz family have been accused of baseless crimes, will you still not do anything? Although he clearly understood Ika, Sethis asked provocatively. No, if this is true, I will definitely not do nothing, It's not that I have any expectations for the life of a noble, I just think that this kind of unfair treatment should not exist. When Ika refused to become Lan Ming's knight, he once said that he might become an enemy of the BZ Empire, not because this sentence was very handsome. The reason why no action is taken is because the goal is not clear enough and there is not enough evidence. What you should do is your own decision. You came here to visit a friend who is under the care of the Holy See. I am not immature enough to take the student's joke seriously. The implication is very clear, the Holy See and Augustus should work together for the development of the BZ Empire, but now the Holy See will not make any interference in Ika's behavior. Even if his actions would bring disaster to the BZ Empire, Sethys had a vague feeling. Let's go back to the original topic, about what magic equipment is. Since Sethys had already declared neutrality when Ika did not express his attitude, Ika also decided to go straight in. Are they fragments of super ancient relics? Ika's words surprised Sethys slightly, and Ika continued, I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with your excellency a year ago, in another world. I don't know if saying this can make him believe that he and Ling have gone back to the past. If he couldn't believe it, he couldn't ask for his last request. So that's what happened? Because you were there, did you know such an accurate time? Sethys laughed as if he had a sudden realization. So, what did I tell you in the past? His eyes were like those of a hunter who had caught his prey, watching Ika with great interest. Ika felt the pressure. Sethys did not accept him, but became wary of him. Rather than hiding something, it's better to tell everything you know. Ika didn't know if his thinking was right. Since Sethys told him this information a year ago, it must be information he thought he could know. Ika repeated what Seth had told him in his memory. Sethys listened to Ika's words in silence, and the pressure on him finally disappeared. This information is indeed correct, and it is not enough to become a secret. Sethys paused, then stood up and walked to the bookshelf, picking up the spine of a book. I will tell you this at that time, maybe it is for you to come to me now. Let me trust my instincts for once. He pulled the book out of the bookshelf, pulled out a book from the nearby bookshelf, exchanged the two books and put them back on the shelf. The scenery in the room was distorted, and the sudden discomfort that came to his mind made Ika feel like vomiting. He covered his mouth and kept swallowing saliva to barely hold back. When he opened his eyes again, he and Sethys had left the room where they had just met. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 205. There are several female stone sculptures standing around the basement-like space. The postures of the stone sculptures are all extending their hands to the sky, as if they are praying to the nameless god. The only light source in the room was the elemental lights on the wall. When Sethys moved here from his room, he used magic to turn on the 4 elemental lights in the room. The light was not bright, and except for the stone sculptures that reflected the light, the surroundings could not be seen clearly. Look up. Sethys' voice came, and Ika didn't know why, but she still obeyed him and looked up at the dome in the darkness. Surprisingly, the dome is not completely dark. It was a huge, fluorescent map. The continent map that I have seen countless times in textbooks, as well as the surrounding oceans and islands, are all represented by light sources of different colors. In addition to what can be distinguished, there are also some golden light spots scattered across the continent and ocean, seemingly irregular, and Ika cannot identify what these golden light spots represent. Did Shimizuki Academy tell you about the ruins? Sethys walked to Ika's side and looked up at the huge map on the dome with him. Remains. After racking my brains to recall, there is no instructor in my memory who proposed such a concept. I heard that they will not teach this knowledge to students, and it seems to be true. Sethys got confirmation from Ika's attitude. Relics is a term that was proposed in the past 10 years, although it was very early, it's been there before, along with this map. Your Excellency Sethis, isn't this the Holy Land? This is the underground of Thebes prison. It is the ruins of the original Thebes prison that was destroyed by war. Thebes prison, Ika had heard of this place. A few days before Ludo returned to the imperial capital with amnesia, a robbery occurred in this prison. Before the establishment of the Bes Empire, the Thebes prison was a place where prisoners were imprisoned in a small country where humans gathered. After execution, the corpses would be thrown into a hole leading underground and then covered with soil. No matter how many years passed, that the holes were not filled with corpses, so some prisoners thought that the holes might lead to another world. The news spread from 10 to 10, and then the prisoners escaped collectively. The prisoners who did not take any measures did not succeed after jumping into the hole. Escape into another world, their bodies disappear in the twisted magic whirlpool in the void, and their souls can never be freed. Sethis suddenly told Ika such a story. Is this the other world that the hole leads to? It can be understood this way. The only way to avoid being involved in the magic vortex is to use the teleportation magic to locate the coordinates to enter here. The mechanical survey of the distance was independently completed by a child you are very familiar with. Professor Coconut. Mechanical survey uses the principle of two kinds of magic to produce different frequency vibrations according to the distance. The technology can be displayed with numerical values and waveforms on the magic machinery. Ika has heard about it from Professor Coconut. The developer of this technology was Professor Coconut, who was only 8 years old at the time. It's unclear which phase space this hole is located in. It's completely sealed. Currently, we only know that the entrance is the original Thebes prison. After the prison robbery a few days ago, someone visited here. Has this hole been made public? Ika didn't understand why Sethis brought him here. The huge map on the dome should be the reason. Only the Holy See and Augustus know of the existence of this place. Of course, this is on the premise that internal information has not been leaked. At least now a third party knows of the existence of this place. Those golden light spots on the map are ruins. Because the location of the ruins within the national border exactly matches the map, it is assumed that the other golden light spots are the same. Sethis told Ika what was now known about the ruins. The most difficult thing about ruins exploration is the uncertainty involved. For example, in the Warren Mountains, the first prince of the Bes Empire is currently responsible for managing the exploration work. The ruins are located on the cross-section of the mountain cliff, and there are a large number of flying monsters. They are entrenched around it, as if they have made a contract to protect the ruins. Is there anything special inside the ruins? It's still unclear. Entering the ruins requires specific magic equipment to be activated around them. Any physical means will be blocked by a special barrier. Maybe Way 11 can analyze that barrier, but now. Sethis paused, then bypassed the question of the barrier and continued. There are very few families that can determine the birthplace of the magic equipment. Only one of the 4 ruins within the national border can be entered. The current exploration work is basically to ensure the safety around the ruins and then ask the nobles to try separately. This is why the exploration work is progressing slowly. As reason. You have to invite those pampered nobles, and you have to cooperate with their time. Even if you want to, you can't do it quickly. The purpose of bringing you here is not to teach you a lesson. Do you see anything from this map? Sethis gave Ika time to think. He hadn't said a word since just now. He just stared at the map closely and listened to Sethis' explanation. And Ika did not disappoint Sethis. He had used the time just now to discover the blind spot that he initially ignored. Lord Sethis, please make the light of the elemental lamp a little brighter. With the help of light, Ika took photos of the dome map in sections with a PDA, then shrunk the photos and arranged them on the screen in the order of the original images. The golden light spots that were originally widely separated were concentrated on the small screen. Even without a pen and paper to connect these golden light spots, he could recognize the outline they formed at a glance. This is a magic circle. And it is a magic circle covering the entire continent. Returning to Sethi's room from the unknown hole, Aika once again experienced the uncontrollable feeling of vomiting. There is an unadjustable distortion in the connection between the two spaces, which you will feel if you are not used to it. Sethi's didn't appear to be greatly affected. Although Aika's body was very uncomfortable, he still thought about the secret hidden in the map in the hole. Sethi seemed to just want him to discover this, and he immediately brought Aika back after that. Need a break. The scenery in the room remains unchanged. Aika is still sitting on the guest chair, while Sethi's is standing in front of the bookshelf. This is not a simple teleportation magic, the whole is more like it is displayed directly in the mind. No thanks. Breathing in the air of the real world, the unpleasant feeling in his stomach was finally relieved. He took out his PDA. The photo of the map he had just taken in the cave no longer existed. Nothing can be brought out from there. The only way is to keep everything you saw and heard in your mind, and then restore it in the outside world. Sethi said lightly and sat down opposite Aika. That's why he didn't stop Aika from taking pictures there. We, the Holy See and Augustus have the same opinion. Those ruins are magic circles covering the entire continent, but the world is not just a simple two-dimensional image. What does it mean? Aika knows about two-dimensional images, he just doesn't understand what the topic just said has to do with two-dimensional images. The ruins we know are generally located in three types of geographical locations: land, floating islands, and seabed. Putting these ruins on the same plane is a magic circle with the ruins as the endpoints and midpoints. If these ruins are placed, how about folding according to the geographical location? Sethi's never gave a direct answer. He habitually kept asking Aika questions to urge him to think. If the remains of the continental edge are located on the seabed, the endpoints need to be moved downwards, floating islands, as the endpoints and midpoints, need to be moved upwards. Aika gradually began to understand Sethi's connection to the two-dimensional image. The world is a three-dimensional space, defined by three directions: length, width, and height. After moving the different endpoints and midpoints up and down, the shape of the magic circle that was originally thought to cover the entire continent changed. The endpoints and midpoints located on different planes form a tilted new magic circle. The floating islands are connected to the floating islands, blocking the sky. The floating islands are connected to the ocean, blocking the boundary between the sea and the sky. The land is connected to the land, blocking the earth. The magic circle that was divided into several pieces locked the continent and surrounding oceans in a birdcage with no exit. Maybe this phenomenon is just some kind of coincidence, but I can't be sure. What supports the existence of the magic circle is its endpoints and midpoints. You should have learned this. And these unidentified ruins are exactly in this position. It is not difficult to imagine that there is some connection. If a certain mechanism in the ruins is activated, the magic circle will be activated, or something like that. Adventure stories always have plots like this. There is an inseparable relationship between a certain mechanism inside the building and a certain seal. If the mechanism is destroyed, a terrifying demon will appear. Aika was very interested in this type of story when she was a child, thinking that one day she would become an explorer. In short, Augustus restored this map. They thought that as long as they went deep into the ruins, they could figure out the relationship between the two. Why do you tell me all these things? This information already involves the internal affairs of the Bizi Empire. Even the Kin's family has no right to access this information. Why exactly? Since the existence of the Hollow has been leaked to the outside world, it won't be a big problem to let you know. Maybe I hope you can get your own ideas. My own opinion. Her Royal Highness the Third Princess seems to have been investigating the relevant information of the ruins recently. I heard that she is relatively close to you. Maybe we can get some useful information from her. We just accepted her invitation. If it hadn't been for that accident, she and I would not have had any contact at all. Ika didn't know why she was trying to defend herself. Was it because she felt guilty for refusing to be her knight twice? Have I answered all the questions you want to know? Sethi seemed ready to put the topic of magic equipment and ruins to an end, but Ika still had things to ask him about two people. These are the most important purposes for him to come here today. The Heinz family, you once told me that they are just sleeping in the frozen time-space and have not died. If that's what I'm telling you, then it's true. A year ago, you said it was not the time to open the barrier yet. You believed you could judge based on the current situation. Because Ling got your promise, she finally solved her misunderstanding about the Holy See. Now she still has to wait. Going down. After returning from the dream a year ago, Ling never mentioned the topic of her family, nor did she tell Wei 11 about the barrier, all because Sethi's promised that everything he did was for the Heinz family. And her parents accepted this. If this is the pain that must be experienced to save the declining family, Ling can choose to wait in pain and longing. The BZ Empire is the country with the fastest reconstruction progress in the continent, and there are no voices of dissatisfaction among the citizens. Do you think so? Sethi's single-sided glasses refracted the sunlight reflected on the table, making it impossible to see clearly under the lenses. No. Unfortunately, Ika has transcended the identity of an ordinary person many times and gone deep under the calm water. Since you know it well, you don't need me to say more. Liu Yan told me that I will take you to visit Miss Ling later. If she still has any thoughts after waking up, she can come to me at any time. Wouldn't Augustus be suspicious if he agreed to let Ling enter and leave the Holy See so simply? If you want to doubt, you should have doubted it long ago. Otherwise, how could the Senate plan to let you and Miss Ling enter the training ground? Sure enough, the revelation of Ika and Ling's identity in August also reached the ears of the Holy See. To be honest, I still don't understand it. Everything the Holy See does is for the development of the BZ Empire, right? Why does it have to become such a complicated thing? If it's just complicated, just let the big guys worry. But behind the power struggle, there are also consequences that run counter to the original intention. Senior Lilith's father was also involved in the internal affairs of the BZ Empire, which made Senior Lilith's family no longer complete. He had kept this matter deep in his heart and did not tell anyone. Even the person involved, Senior Sister Lilith, did not know that Ika had learned the true meaning behind the objection from Mrs. Elise. If I can only tell you that this is an adult's world, can you accept it? It's hard to accept. But that's the truth. Things that seem incomprehensible to you now will become natural in the future. I know Ika saw that Sethi's had no intention of discussing this kind of issue with him, so he turned to another topic. What about Wei 11? Aren't you going to let her return to the Holy See? Even if Wei 11 returns to the Holy See, if allowed, she may be able to continue to stay at Chuanjiao Academy, but her time with everyone will be greatly reduced. He couldn't stubbornly believe that keeping her was the only option that could make her happy. Wei 11 really wants to be with Liu Yan. If she can't return to the Holy See, she will rarely have such an opportunity. I think the Holy See is also a home for her. She once told us about her days spent in the Holy See. I don't want to see her lonely expression when she said such words again. So, let her talk to Liu Yan about the days she spent with you in the Holy See with that lonely expression on her face. Is this what you want to see? Ika was speechless for a moment. Your world is too beautiful, or too naive. Sethi's words were like a heavy hammer, hitting Ika's heart. I just hope that her wish can be granted. What you gain will also be lost. You can never save everyone at the same time. Someone must have said this to you. Miss Ling, your sister, or Wei 11. Sethi saw through everything, and in just a short exchange, he already understood Ika's personality. Your idea is very beautiful, and I don't think it is necessary to break all your illusions. Sethis did not continue to condemn his naivete. At least now, Way 11 cannot be allowed to come back. No matter what result he gets, Ika cannot use what he thinks is the right idea to uphold justice. Because Sethis has spoken out. Before that, I had only pursued self-righteous justice. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 206. Liuyan was waiting for Ika at the small round table in the courtyard. When she saw him pushing open the door of the mansion and leaving, Liuyan arranged his uniform and walked in front of him. My face is really ugly. Did His Holiness the Pope say something? A bit. Ika dealt with it hastily. He didn't want Liuyan to know his embarrassment. You must have said something self-righteous again. He is such an easy person to see through, Ika laughed at herself in her heart. Next, do you want to visit Ling? Today I specially set aside time to run around with you, so give Xiao 11 to me in return. This kind of reward is too expensive. And Way 11, it's not up to me to decide. What? I usually behave like Xiao 11's guardian, but now I'm shrinking. Do I usually have that attitude? You talk like you know Xiao 11 very well, how could you know her better than me? Liuyan should have been angry at this time, but her momentum weakened, but, occasionally, this attitude still helps a little bit. Help? You mean? Liuyan, who was walking in front of her, did not turn around because she stopped, so Ika could only stop and face her back. It's still a sunny day today. The rainy season in the Imperial City is extremely short, and it often passes without noticing. Well, didn't you just say that I have something to tell you? I feel like I can say it now. Trying to speak in a calm tone, Liuyan still seemed unwilling to face Ika directly to convey the sentence. Ika still doesn't understand what Liuyan wants to tell her. Of course, a sudden confession is impossible. In addition, it is possible that when I was at Chiyu Academy, I got angry at you. I'm sorry. Her little shoulders shrank into a ball, and her voice became smaller and smaller, and, thank you for what you taught me, otherwise, Xiao 11 and I, still can't stand together now. Ika remembered that half a year ago, when everyone was enrolled in Shimizuki Academy, Liuyan had come to see him alone. What happened at that time? After recalling it, Ika scratched her head in embarrassment. I seem to have said something very arrogant. It's very arrogant. You clearly don't understand Xiao 11 or me, but you act like you know everything. I'm very angry. I was very angry at that time. Liuyan added. But it's because we don't know anything that we can say that. We know everything, and we are trying our best for each other. Because we know everything, we think this is the most appropriate thing to do. No, you know, when we started, we have turned our backs on each other and moved farther and farther away from each other through hard work. Liuyan. Perhaps only by turning his back to him and not looking into his own eyes, Liuyan could speak these words and convey them to the people he once hated without any reservation. Anyway, I have to thank you who don't know anything. After saying the words that had been buried in his heart, Liuyan turned around with relief. Xiao 11 can finally call me sister. I thought I would never have such an opportunity. You really, like Way 11. Because she is a sister who doesn't live up to expectations. If no one encourages her, she can't do anything. Besides, I also like the feeling of being relied on. Liuyan laughed softly. In Ika's impression, this smile of hers had only been shown to Way 11. The sanctuary has a separate room specially set up for the injured who need to rest. The feeling here is different from that of a hospital ward. The main body is not pure white, but ordinary solid wood floors. This is more like an ordinary residence than a nursing home. When Liuyan took Ika to the room where Ling was placed, a medical staff from the nursing home happened to come out of it. Lord Liuyan. He put his hand on his chest and bowed slightly. which seemed to be the way of saluting the Holy See. How is she doing? The physical wounds have completely healed, and there are no abnormalities in his brain waves. He has not yet awakened. It sounds like it's not something you need to worry about, you just need to take time to solve the problem. I know, thank you for your hard work. Yes. Leaning slightly behind him, the medical staff walked past the two of them. You just made people feel like they suddenly grew up. Ika deliberately put his hand on her little head. Liu Yin's body was so young that he could touch her head without raising his arms completely. But Liu Yin was not as docile as Wei 11. She grabbed Ika's wrist without looking back and stabbed it in hard with her thumbnail. After Ika let go of her hand reflexively, she immediately let go of Ika. Did you learn your lesson? Yes. It only left a deep half-moon mark on the wrist, without breaking the skin. Even so, it still hurts, and if you were carrying a weapon, you would undoubtedly give up your weapon. Liu Yin is different from Wei 11, who is a barrier master. He is a national magician who directly enters the front line with weapons. In terms of combat skills alone, she has abilities above the average level of the country's magicians. Liu Yin completely ignored Ika's pain and pushed open the door to the room. Beside the bed by the window, Ling, who had changed into thin clothes, was still asleep. The clothes were prepared for her by the Holy See. Her uniform had been washed and dried and folded on the chair next to the bed. The room was eerily quiet, even the insects chirping outside the window sounded louder than the two people talking. How long will you stay here? After Professor Kokona's work is over, we should go back. I just received a notification from above that the investigation of the Nemesis Society has been handed over to another team. Because you have to take care of us. How could you give up the mission for such a reason? Liu Yin realized that his voice was too loud, and immediately lowered his voice. When I went to Kokona's place, the mission was handed over, and getting to you has been delayed for a long time. It's been a long time. Liu Yin has always been very busy. She has been involved in the task of tracking down the Nemesis Society. Because Shun, her student, existed in the Imperial City Defense Bureau, the Holy See and the Imperial City Defense Bureau formed a cooperative relationship on the issue of the Nemesis Association. Suddenly relieved of his heavy burden, Liu Yin did not show a very happy expression, rather he felt very complicated. Is there going to be nothing to do for a while? Ika asked tentatively. Liu Yin hesitated for a moment, and then nodded reluctantly. I plan to go home and stay for a while. Shun has been staying at the Imperial City Defense Bureau headquarters recently, so he should be back too. In this case, everyone lives together again. Ika recalled the unforgettable time when the four of them disturbed Liu Yin's mansion for the first time. Although it's relatively free, there is still work, and it feels like just do it if you have time. Liu Yin said that she likes to feel dependent, so it is understandable that she would feel unwilling to do so. It's a rare holiday. Let's take a good rest. The Pope should also consider this. Although this is the case, Wei 11 is also back. Wouldn't you like to spend some time with her during this period? You don't have to worry about. In fact, Liu Yin has figured out the reason why the task has been reduced, but Ika's attitude makes her unhappy no matter what. Since you want to go back, then Ling. Ika suddenly thought of this question. Do you want to take her back to my house? Professor Kokona doesn't particularly need us. Wouldn't it be more convenient to take care of her if she is taken home? Everyone is at home. This proposal is a bit hasty, but Ika's proposal does make some sense. But if there is an emergency, Ling will not be able to get professional help immediately. Ask the people here. Liu Yin pressed the button on the bedside, and a moment later, the medical staff she met at the door came to the room. She explained the situation to the other party, and then got permission to discharge the patient after another detailed examination. Is that okay? After the other party left, Ika asked quietly. You brought it up first, Why are you still asking me questions? Liu Yin glanced at him angrily. Is this indecisive? Who did you listen to? That's what everyone says. Everyone. Ling rarely takes the initiative to contact Liu Yin. Everyone refers to two or more people, so it should refer to Luoluo and Wei 11. Although she had heard them say this many times in person, Ika still couldn't admit it. The inspection won't take long. What about Coconut? I heard that Shun took the two of them home, and you are here again now, leaving Coconut alone underground. Almost forgot. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have reminded you. I made an appointment with Professor Coconut to pick her up during dinner. What time is it now? It's just a few minutes until dinner time. Ika could only silently take out her PDA and send an apology message to Professor Coconut. The signal should not be received underground, but at least sending it now can be used as a probation prop. After picking up the angry Professor Coconut from the underground of the Imperial City Defense Bureau, she was ready to let the innocent Liu Yin use her body to compensate for her dissatisfaction. I'll sit in the passenger seat, and you two can take your time to deal with it. Only at this time, Ika sent the confused Liu Yin and Professor Coconut into the back seats without any hesitation. Wait a minute. Why me? When he closed the car door for the two of them, Liu Yin suddenly rushed to the car window and started knocking on it. Sorry, I don't want this either. While Ika was making an unintentional apology, she watched the tearful sound on the car window being dragged into the darkness by Professor Coconut behind her. Her little hand patted the glass a few times, and then gradually lost strength. Ika, who sat back in the passenger seat, heard the faint sound of playing coming from the back seat, and he could only try his best to pretend not to hear it. You are really cruel, but you did a great job. Shun started the engine with one hand. Would you like to turn on the amplification in the back? You are the real cruel one. In this way, Professor Coconut will forgive herself. Choosing to abandon Liu Yin for the punishment of dozens of design drawings was a helpless decision. I believe Liu Yin will definitely choose to forgive herself when she communicates with Professor Coconut. This result is really wonderful, just like a dream. Of course it is an impossible dream. After getting out of the car, Ika was immediately punished by the exhausted Liu Yin. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 207. It was Ika's duty to carry Ling back to the room. After he fulfilled his duty, he was immediately kicked out of the room by Luoluo and Liu Yin. Dinner was still much later than expected. Luoluo and Wei 11 were greatly shocked by seeing the injured Ling with their own eyes. Ika didn't know what the three of them said in Ling's room. In short, she didn't hear the door closing from the second floor until very late. Although Liu Yin has told everyone about Ling's current situation, for humans, only being able to speak and think can be called alive. Ling's comatose state of not knowing when it will get better cannot be viewed optimistically in any case. The dinner was held in such a heavy atmosphere, and the most depressed people were indeed Luoluo and Wei 11. If the Holy See can't do anything, other hospitals are probably in the same situation. The situation here is also very complicated. She should wake up by the time I finish. Professor Coconut estimated the workload based on the data obtained today. Under such circumstances, it was impossible to leave Ling alone in the imperial capital, and traveling back and forth between Chiyu Academy and the imperial capital would not allow her to rest well. Anyway, cheer up. Didn't we agree not to worry Ling after she wakes up? Ika didn't know if this was encouragement, but it was just a little bit. He hoped that he could do something for everyone. It's no problem now, brother. Luoluo's smile was very forced, and she must have realized it herself. If you just take care of it, Xioxi and I can do a good job. All that can be done now is simple care, and nothing else can be done. Luoluo was just a student, so she was naturally helpless when even the professional pharmacists of the Vatican were helpless. It will be done well. Wei 11 couldn't find anything else she could do, so she could only pin all her hopes on time. Liuyan didn't say anything. She only looked up at everyone occasionally, and it was unknown what she was thinking. After dinner, Luoluo and Wei 11 went back to Ling's room to help Ling change into clothes more suitable for resting. Professor Coconut also wanted to sort out the data collected today. She used the bathroom first and then went back to her room. What are your plans? After leaving all the tasks of washing the dishes to Shungo, the restaurant where only Liuyan and Aika were left became quiet. It was very quiet around the dining table from the beginning, but when everyone was there, the atmosphere became even more dull, and there was no peace inside. Let's stick to the original plan, but I originally thought that Professor Coconut would need us to stay there all the time, but now I feel like I can't find anything to do. Aika doesn't know how he can take care of Ling, and he doesn't intend to interfere in the work of Luoluo and Wei 11. This is not a question of whether to help or not. If they intervene on their own initiative, they will be disappointed. Aika knows what they are thinking now. If you can find something that only you can do, you can feel that you are truly here. This is the same as Liuyan's desire to be relied on. If you can't do anything, there will definitely be a hole in your heart. Because now Aika has a deep understanding of the feeling that she is unable to work hard with them. But he still remembered Liuyan's words. If he was depressed, everyone would be affected by this atmosphere, so Aika insisted not to show it. You have worked hard too. As if seeing Aika's inner struggle, Liuyan suddenly murmured. I didn't say it specifically to comfort Aika, it was just that Aika happened to hear it. The sound of water coming from the cooking room had stopped. Shun wiped his hands and walked out, sitting next to Aika. Let me ask a little bit, is the current situation very bad? Moments ago, they had only heard that Ling was injured. Luoluo and Wei 11, who had not seen Ling at that time, did not feel such a heavy feeling. So Shun thought it was just a minor injury that was common to magicians, so he didn't pay too much attention to it. But with the atmosphere at the dinner table just now, even he, who was always optimistic, didn't know how to interrupt. They are probably too tired. Aika's eyes dimmed, a lot of things have happened recently. How does Luoluo make you feel now? Liuyan asked Shun like this before Aika could say anything. What does it feel like, isn't it the same Luoluo? I have to say there is something different. Shun recalled Luoluo's appearance today, I should say he is a little confused, and he feels a little mature. When Luoluo and Wei 11 were sent home alone, it was immediately obvious that Luoluo was a little offended by his attitude. To be precise, he was more polite. When packing her things, she would often look at the room in a daze. An accident happened while we were at Shimizuki Academy. Then, Aika told Shun everything about Lolo losing his memory during the Moonflower Festival. Liuyan only knew the general situation, and she listened patiently to Aika's words until the end. After the last words were spoken, a brief silence fell at the table. In short, this is the current situation. Luoluo's memory has not been restored, and Ling has not woken up. We can only wait for them to recover on their own. Shun doesn't need to blame Aika for such self-destruction. He understands that Aika has made a lot of efforts to restore Lolo's memory, but this is not a result that can be changed with no amount of effort. Everyone, you can come in. Luoluo came down the stairs. She heard all of Aika's statement just now, but she just pretended not to care. Shun and Liuyan also stopped mentioning this matter, otherwise they would let down her good intentions. The reality is so cruel that human power seems too small. Human beings live in such a world, played by invisible hands. Of course, beauty also exists in this world, and it is precisely because of the existence of beauty that human beings will not give up easily. This time, everyone did not live together, but each used a new guest room. It turned out that the room shared by the girls was reserved for the sleeping Ling, and Wei 11 temporarily lived in a different room from Luoluo. Luoluo doesn't mind living with Wei 11. This is Way 11's own request. She must have thought a lot before making such a decision. She can no longer burden Lugo and must learn to be independent. This is the small goal Way 11 has set for herself. After taking a simple shower and sitting at the table he was used to, Aika couldn't calm down for some reason. Way 11 will go to bed after 10 o'clock. Ting Shun said that Liuyan seemed to have gone to Professor Kokina's room and never came out. Maybe he needed to discuss his plans for this period of time. Luoluo should be the only one staying in Ling's room to take care of her now. She doesn't go to bed as early as Way 11. I don't know where this restless feeling comes from, and the night breeze that keeps blowing the curtains doesn't take away any heat. Summer has not yet entered, and there is already a kind of summer heat. The untimely chirping of insects coming from the window also adds to the feeling that summer is approaching. Ah! Aika always kept her hands hanging down, leaning against the back of the chair, looking up at the ceiling. It has been like this since the beginning. I want to do something, but now I am here to kill time. This is probably the source of inner irritability. What on earth do I want to do? I keep saying that I have to do something, and I can't bear to watch the status quo develop without doing anything, but in reality I am really doing nothing. After staying in this state for another minute, Aika jumped up from the chair. Anyway, I have to do something. He walked outside the house and saw that the empty corridor was lined with only guest room doors. Without thinking about anything, he came to Ling's door and knocked gently. A few seconds later, Luoluo opened the door. "Brother, it's so late. You're still awake too." Aika took the lead and blocked Luoluo's mouth. It seemed that he was not the only one feeling the gradually warming temperature, as Luoluo also changed into a strapless pajamas. "Can I come in?" "Sure." This was not the first time Aika came to this room. He walked straight to the bed. Luoluo closed the door behind him, gave his chair to Aika, and sat down on the cushion beside the table. This room was originally used by several of them. When Luoluo lost his memory, all these cushions were simply stored in the closet. "Don't you want to sleep now?" "I can't fall asleep just yet." The cup Luoluo placed on the table was still steaming, and there was a fragrance of scented tea in the room. Even after drinking scented tea that promotes sleep, Luoluo still didn't feel sleepy at all. "Me too." "Is Xioxi asleep?" "How could I possibly know? Besides, I don't have the key to the room. Here, everyone keeps their own room key, and only Ling's room is unlocked. In this room, there are memories forgotten by Luoluo, as well as memories created after forgetting. I seem to be able to understand what kind of mood my brother had when he came here. Aika also came to this room at this time in order to return the heart of Orchid to Luoluo. At that time, Luoluo didn't know his relationship with Aika, but simply wanted to get closer to him. Now recalling his actions at that time again, Luoluo realized that it had different meanings for the two of them. "Let me tell you." Aika was silent for a while before speaking. "Have you ever thought that I am actually quite troublesome?" You don't need to think about it to know that Luoluo's answer must be no, but Aika still couldn't help asking the question. A little bit." Surprisingly, Luoluo's answer deviated from Aika's expected answer. "Is this also the impact of amnesia?" "Really, that's my reason." "Brother? I didn't mean that, not in that sense of trouble." Luoluo himself couldn't explain it. What exactly did he feel dissatisfied with Aika? The relationship between the two changed subtly the night they learned the truth from Aika. Aika said like to herself. In that environment, Luoluo firmly believed that the like she said to herself was the same as her inner feelings. "Now I don't fully understand the relationship between brother and sister, and this fact only slows me down. Only the emotion of like is deeply rooted in my heart." Now Luoluo will not deceive himself. Only he can understand the true meaning of this relationship. But reality will never allow this kind of relationship to blossom. Luoluo knew where he had hidden this feeling before he lost his memory. When I get here, I remember that week. Me too. If the memories of the past are restored, will you forget the time spent alone with my brother? There was loneliness in her tone. Aika doesn't know the answer to this question either. The topic was discontinued. Luoluo picked up the teacup and Aika looked out the window. Only time will not stop and still maintain a silent pace. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 208. The next day's breakfast was prepared by Liuyan and Wixi together, and Luoluo rarely overslept. The only person who knew she slept late last night was Aika. After Aika returned to her room, she still didn't fall asleep for a long time, and the same should be true for Luoluo. He stayed with Luoluo until late at night before sending her back to her room. Maybe it's not a waste of time. In the flowing time, both Aika and Luoluo have thought a lot. Brother, I want everyone to get back to the right state. Although I do have no memory of living with Sister Ling and Xiao 11 now, I always feel that something is wrong now. After learning the truth that night, Luoluo had found his own answer. After recovering my lost memories, the days I spent with my brother will be forgotten instead. I'm afraid that will happen. If you lose your memory, create more memories to fill it. Create many, many memories until you can no longer remember them. This is the only promise that Aika can give to Luoluo. Only with this, he will never break his promise. No, this is not the promise that Luoluo wants Aika to make to him. My brother has already satisfied my selfishness, so I should give him something in return. Although I can only do some trivial things. There was a slightly ambiguous atmosphere floating in the air. Luoluo was silent in the shadow behind the moonlight. Aika couldn't even guess what she really wanted to express. Of course he knew that Luoluo would not still think of that kind of thing at such a critical moment, so the real guilty person was himself who naturally thought about that kind of thing. Ah, I remembered. Just as he was worrying about what kind of request he should make in return for himself, what Liuyan said in the Holy See today suddenly came to his mind. Just take advantage of this opportunity. Although Liuyan doesn't have to return to the Holy See during this period, she still seems to have assigned tasks to do in the Northwest District. This time, she also gave us a lot of help, so I have to help her. Brother, do you want to go with Miss Liuyan? Luoluo didn't seem to agree immediately. She chewed the meaning of the sentence carefully. The northwest area of the imperial capital seems to be the center of industrial development now. It is said that the factory area is not enough, so the two areas were merged. Is that so? What does it take to get to a place like that? This, I haven't asked Liuyan specifically yet, but it is indeed a task assigned to her by the Holy See, so don't worry. This was just a temporary excuse that Aika came up with in order to get Luoluo to accept it. He didn't even know whether Liuyan would take him with him on the mission. I won't doubt my brother's words at that moment. She did have some emotional problems, but, isn't the work of the Holy See very dangerous? What he really wanted Aika to know was not his feelings, which he couldn't even call jealousy, but his safety. You shouldn't worry about this. I have experienced some big scenes, and I am a little conceited. Aika, who was originally full of confidence, suddenly felt ashamed in front of Luoluo. Besides, Liuyan is also a very powerful knight. Well, I believe that brother will not lie. Luoluo said this, as if to reassure himself. It must be because of brother's strength that we can live here like now. Aika couldn't take what Luoluo said for a while, because Luoluo thought he can't lie, so he couldn't lie. The person who really saved Luoluo was not himself, but someone who didn't know it. At least, I couldn't save Lolo if I lost consciousness in that place. So, he couldn't lie and could only change the topic away from himself, Ling will be left to you to take care of during this period. Wei 11 will definitely ask for help, but it will definitely not work without you. Is this, in return? Well, you did something I could never do. Ika got up and prepared to go back. From the changes in the moonlight, he knew that a long time had passed since he came to this room. Luoluo almost needs to rest. If possible, Ika really wants to stay with her until she falls asleep. But this thought must be suppressed. He has already taken advantage of Luoluo's current state and spent an unforgettable time with her. The relationship between the two of them had returned to its original point on that night of skin-to-skin contact. Actually, the title brother is really incredible. Luoluo suddenly said this when Ika walked to the door of the room. Ika's hand stopped on the doorknob, waiting for her to finish. Until now, I'm still not used to being called this suddenly, but, how should I put it? Luoluo didn't make a sound of footsteps, and Ika still knew that she was coming behind him. There was a feeling that she was by my side, so even if I didn't look back, my extremely calm mood told me. Slender arms hugged his waist. Luoluo didn't let him look back, just kept holding Ika in this position. The bodies pressed tightly together did not feel the heat of summer, but just like the warm wind blowing through the heart, making people reluctant to leave. Similar to this mood, there is a very nostalgic and comfortable feeling. Luoluo just wanted to convey this feeling to Ika, hoping to make him feel it at the nearest distance. This is my last willfulness. Only by convincing yourself in this way can you do something like this to finally bother Ika. She didn't know that Ika, as a boy, was trying his best not to shed tears at this time. Ika couldn't make a sound either, and her choked tone couldn't be hidden from Luoluo. Moreover, he also knew that this was Luoluo's last willfulness. Only by convincing yourself in this way can you accept the finally trouble yourself move like this. Nights like this will eventually become part of our memories, and they are the most important part. Wei 11 had been waiting at the dining table early. Today she looked like she wanted to have breakfast right away, but being a good child, she would never make such a request. Ika got up a little earlier than Luoluo. While waiting for Luoluo, Wixi's belly occasionally made cute sounds. No. It's not. In fact, everyone pretended not to hear, but Wei 11's shy and anxious denial was completely exposed. Did you miss out on yesterday's dinner? Since Wei 11 brought it up herself, remaining silent would make her even more embarrassed, so Liuyan simply put the topic on the table. No. That's what it's like. It's been a long time since so many people came together at home, so I didn't estimate how much food I would eat. Usually there are only Liuyan and Shun in this house. Although the two of them often go home at different times due to official business, the dinner time will not be cancelled even if it is very late. It's not like that. Wei 11 is in a period of growth now. Please listen to me. Wei 11 finally slapped the table cutely when Ika explained the facts, but when everyone focused all their attention on her, she retracted her seat. Speaking of which, Wei 11 is 12 years old, right? She always felt a little guilty for bullying her like this. Wei 11 must be hungry. Ika thought she could probably forget that feeling if she turned her attention to other topics. This year, he should be 13 years old. Liuyan helped Wei 11, who was out of state, to do some calculations. Sorry, I don't know Wei 11's birthday yet. Ika has wanted to know Wei 11's birthday a long time ago, but has never found a chance to confirm it with her. There is not many days difference between his and Luoluo's birthdays, she is just 1 year younger than him. Ika doesn't take his birthday very seriously, it's just a matter of mood, so his birthday is always celebrated on the same day as Lolo's birthday. In fact, it doesn't matter whether he celebrates it or not. It is his family, especially Luoluo, who forcibly celebrates his birthday again and again as if it is unacceptable. Wei 11. Neither of us have birthdays. It took Ika a moment to understand Liuyan's instructions. Liuyan and Wixi are both children in an orphanage. Children who don't even know their parents certainly don't know when they came to this world. Xiao 11 and I have been living in the orphanage since we were able to remember the things around us. The director's grandma said that our parents died because of an accident, and there was nothing left to prove them. Liuyan surprisingly calmly recounted her and Wei 11's life experiences. Perhaps she had accepted this fact in the past few years of living independently. On the other hand, Wei 11, who was not moving, was still somewhat resistant to this topic. Good morning everyone. At a time when he didn't know whether the topic should continue, a sleepy-eyed Lolo walked down the stairs. After seeing everyone gathered in the restaurant, her sleepiness seemed to be blown away in an instant. Sorry. I overslept. It was very embarrassing to be waited for by everyone, so Lolo quickly apologized to everyone. It's okay, it must be because you were too tired last night. No, nothing. It's not that Lolo finds it hard to take care of Ling, it's just that she had a little insomnia last night. I saw it. Shun suddenly said this without thinking. What did you see? Last night, very late at night, you and Lolo came out from the same room. Shun used strange sentences and strange gestures to completely change the direction of the conversation in the restaurant. When? Happened. Wei 11, who was sent to bed by Lolo around 10 o'clock in the evening, was completely kept in the dark. Even if she was not good at dealing with this kind of topic, she still felt that she must know clearly. Wei 11, it's not what you imagined. Brother Ika, I can't believe your words. Wei 11 looked at Ika with eyes filled with sadness, like a little beast abandoned by its owner, with tears in her eyes. Probably around midnight or later. Liuyan also interjected, adding to the strange trend. I didn't even pay attention to the time. How could you know it in such detail? Ika couldn't help but ask Liuyan. He thought of the worst possibility. Could it be that there were surveillance cameras in every room? If this was the case, then the week he and Lolo spent here was completely exposed. You're thinking too much, I don't have much energy to monitor you. Liuyan raised the corner of his mouth slyly, that's just when I heard the door closing in the next room. Xiao 11 must not have been there so late. When sleeping, Coconut and I are in the room, and Shun cannot go in or out of Ling's room. To sum up, the sound of the door closing twice can only be heard by the two of you. Ika had forgotten until just now that Professor Coconut's room was next to Ling's room, and she also heard that Liuyan and her had something to discuss. I just went to visit Ling, and it's impossible to do anything in Ling's room. Just a hug, it shouldn't be anything. You're just asking for it? Shun looked back and forth jokingly at Ika, who was defending, and Lolo, who was keeping his head down and not speaking. Lolo, please explain a little bit. Ika, who was fighting alone, could only place her hope on Lolo, but she seemed to have no reaction at all. Just ordinary physical contact. Lolo's words could not be called a rescue, but they only added fuel to the fire. In this case, Ika hoped that she would not speak. Afterwards, trying to settle the subject took up all of precious breakfast time. Ika came to the conclusion that Wei 11 was indeed hungry. For some reason, the way she lowered her head and stuffed breakfast into her small mouth without saying a word looked more like she was giving up on herself. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 209. Before Liuyan left home, Ika asked her about her recent arrangements. It's just like what I told you before. There was a reaction similar to an explosion of magic power in the ground in the Northwest District. It may be that it was in a particularly deep place, and the vibrations did not reach the ground, so few people know about it. Are you going to investigate? Yeah, but it's not an above-board investigation, and I won't go there wearing the uniform of the Holy See. There is a sneaky feeling. Investigation is a secretive matter. Actually, I want to ask, can I go with you on this mission? Do you have any reason? Liuyan did not refuse immediately. This kind of thing could not allow outsiders to participate, but she still wanted to hear what Aika would say. It's not a very special reason. On the one hand, I want to hand over the task of taking care of Ling and Wei 11 to Lugo Lugo. It's not appropriate for me to stay here and disturb them since I can't do anything. What about the other side? On the other hand, I simply want to go with you. What kind of reason is this? Liuyan's eyes were filled with suspicion. There is no need for a reason. You are the only one doing this task, right? After all, it is a sneaky mission like you said. If there are many people executing it, it will be easier to be exposed. However, if an ordinary person like me were with you, no one would have thought that this was a sneaky move. At this time, Aika had forgotten that he was already a celebrity in the BZ Empire. What you said makes sense. Liuyan completely forgot about this matter. She was not sensitive to news about the BZ Empire. Right. Besides, the opportunity to repay you like this is rare, and I don't want to give it up. Repay? Liuyan was stunned by the word. I don't need your reward. Besides, I have never made such a request. If you want to do it, just do it. It's too casual. After calling out like this, Liuyan lost his strength. It's up to you. Anyway, in the final analysis, you did all these things for Lugo Lugo. No, I had already prepared to go with you before that. Besides, I don't want to just do nothing by myself. By the way, just think that I'm doing it for myself. Even if it's not a reward, just let me do something. For yourself, the price you paid is really high. It's very dangerous to be with me. Didn't your sister stop you? That has happened. Liuyan looked at Aika's hesitant look and thought to herself, that's really the case. It's up to you. Anyway, for me, there is not much difference between one more person and one less person. At this time, I should obviously not agree to let him go with me. This may be an option that I will regret in the future. After thinking so much, Liuyan did not say any words of rejection. Perhaps it's because I have some expectations for the future in my heart. Desperately denying this idea that suddenly popped into her head, she faced Aika seriously again. But you must let Lugo Lugo and Xiao 11 truly accept it? You must not go with me without telling them. Lugo Lugo should have agreed, and Wei 11's words. Aika was not worried that Wei 11 would resist her decision, but thought that she might have the same idea as her. If she wanted to come too, Liuyan would definitely try his best to stop her. She would never let Wei 11 step into this kind of field again. If I can't do that, I can't take you with me. I'm going to talk to her now. Although Liuyan's task did not have a deadline, she would of course hope to complete it as soon as possible, and Aika did not want to hold her back because of herself, otherwise it would be putting the cart before the horse. As soon as Aika stepped onto the stairs, there was a loud noise from upstairs. What happened? With a bad feeling, Aika ran to the second floor in 3 steps at a time. The long pure white hair covered the small body, and the creature that looked like Wei 11 lay face down on the last step leading to the second floor. Her body shook with small sobs, seemingly unaware that Aika was right behind her. From the sound just now, it sounded like she had fallen hard, and Aika could understand the reason. Wei 11 tried to stand up with her hands on the steps, but her body seemed to be in pain, and she just kept holding back from crying. Aika reached out to her and picked her up from the steps. Babble. Suddenly being grabbed from behind by an unknown person, Wei 11 cried out softly. It's me, it's me. Aika asked her to sit on the steps and took back the small slippers that had fallen to the side when she fell. Brother Aika. Wei 11 seemed to be avoiding Aika, and Aika knew the answer from her wandering eyes. Did you hear what Liuyan and I said? Wei 11 probably hid in the stairwell and overheard the conversation between the two. When Aika was about to come back, she hurriedly prepared to hide in the room on the second floor. She was not good at sports and tripped on the steps. Sorry. Way 11's voice was slightly hoarse. Aika squatted down in front of her. Her young knees were not worn out, just a small patch of light red. This situation can only be treated by Lugo, otherwise Way 11 will continue to feel pain during the natural recovery time. Wait a minute while you're here, I'll call Lugo over. In the morning, while Liuyan and Wixi were preparing breakfast, they also helped Professor Kokina prepare lunch in a lunchbox. Because Professor Kokina will work until the evening after entering the 4th underground floor, so lunch is a big problem. Yesterday, Aika temporarily bought her lunch outside, and last night, Liuyan and Professor Kokina seemed to have agreed to use this method to solve the problem. Shun and Professor Kokina set off for the Imperial City Defense Bureau early in the morning, and Luoluo was now packing up. No need to go. Way 11 grabbed Aika's trouser leg. Her strength was not strong, but she had the power to make Aika turn around and listen to her words. She tried to rub the red and swollen area, but she retracted before her fingertips touched it. It really hurts, I should let Luoluo do it. It doesn't matter, this level is nothing compared to Brother Aika's pain. Thanks. Aika didn't let Way 11 continue talking, but just touched her head to thank her for her concern. Brother Aika, are you here to convince me? I hope you can believe me. I will never do dangerous things, and I will stop Liuyan from doing them. Xiaoyan is also my favorite family member. Brother Aika is the most respected family member. Reverence or something, it's too exaggerated. Although Aika already knew that Way 11 viewed her in this way, she was still very embarrassed to hear this statement from her own mouth. Everyone is my most important family, Brother Aika, it's absolutely understandable. I can understand. Because this is what Aika talks about every day, and it is the relationship that he has decided for everyone now. Go, Brother Aika, I believe you. In the end, Way 11 only used a soft word and a sweet smile to prove her trust in her family. There is one more small request. Way 11 suddenly pressed her chest with a guilty conscience, as a condition for agreeing to you. Because Aika was now squatting in front of her, Way 11's flushed cheeks could be seen clearly, and even the white neck exposed outside her pajamas was stained slightly red. Well, as long as I can achieve it, I will definitely agree to it. Aika and Way 11 spent a year together, and she had never made a willful request to herself, so Aika thought about responding to her first willfulness no matter what. Way 11's fingers unconsciously grasped the hem of her clothes, and her slightly sunken collarbone was completely exposed under the pulled fabric. Can you cast some magic on me so that this place won't hurt? The place she was pointing to was probably the injured calf just now, Aika speculated. However, what is magic? Way 11 should know that Aika does not have the talent to use healing magic. It sounds like a simple request, but it must be something you can do. Well, Aika remembered hearing this statement somewhere, when she was younger. Could it be? Aika suddenly remembered her childhood memories. If it was that kind of magic, it was indeed within her ability. He had no way to confirm the answer to Way 11, who was waiting patiently. Way 11, whose cheeks were flushed, seemed to have no energy left to tell the answer herself. I can only take a gamble. Aika gently held up Way 11's calf with his hands. He raised his eyes doubtfully to confirm Way 11's attitude. Way 11, who gently bit the back of her hand, just nodded, her big moist eyes filled with tears. It seemed that his guess was not wrong, so Aika continued with confidence. Although he said he was relieved, he was actually more nervous than before. The skin on Way 11's calf could be broken by a blow, and this was the first time Aika directly touched it with her own hands. He held Way 11's injured calf as if it were fragile glass. Although Way 11 tried her best to turn her head, her eyes glanced at Aika from time to time. This was one of the reasons why Aika was so nervous. If Luoluo and Liuyan happen to pass by here now, what kind of thing will they be treated as? If Luoluo discovers it, it may only be a mental obliteration. If Liuyan is replaced, it will be a double obliteration both physically and mentally. Brother Ika. Wei 11 urged Ika vaguely. She definitely didn't want to be seen like this by a third person. If you back down here, you are not a man. Now that you have started, you must go to the end. Ika was worried, leaned over and pecked the slightly red and swollen area with her lips like a dragonfly. Fly away in pain. After Ika said it, her whole body became hot. This feeling of shame cannot be described in words, only I can experience it. It seems, it really doesn't hurt anymore. The sound coming from the top of the head was also like a string suddenly loosened, with a slight tremor. Really, it turns out it really works. If it could make Wei 11 happy, a little shame could be tolerated. Is this okay? That's it? Wei 11 still tried to block her expression with the back of her hand, maintaining the posture of being supported by Ika. It feels like a dream. But, do you really don't need Luoluo to treat you? It's still inconvenient to walk now. Ika knew that this kind of magic could only bring spiritual comfort, but did not solve the fundamental problem. It doesn't matter, I can do it. Wei 11 tried her best to stand up from the steps, but she was still reluctant. Ika lent her his hand. Holding Ika's hand, Wei 11 could barely move. No. It's because I'm so happy that I can't walk. If this happiness has not disappeared by noon, I will let Luoluo handle it. Woo. Ika took Wei 11's hand and sent her to her room, letting her sit on the bed. There was nothing special about the furnishings in the room, and she didn't bring many personal belongings. Among those things, Ika discovered something in her memories. You brought this too? Ika picked up the black and white bear doll from Wei 11's bedside that was filled with memories of the two of them. The black and white bear dolls come in pairs, and Ika placed the other reverse-colored bear doll on his desk in the administrator's cabin. Because, I can't sleep without holding it. As an alternative, Wei 11 now hugged her own pillow and buried half of her face in it. Sleep with this in your arms. Ika imagined that scene for a moment and laughed involuntarily. Woo. Wei 11 must have seen that Ika was thinking about being rude, and she hugged the pillow tighter. If the pillow had been replaced by Ika, Wei 11 would have broken her spine by now. Of course, such a horrible thing would not have happened. Ika put the black and white bear doll back far away, and then stood up from the bed. Liuyan will probably leave in the afternoon. You should have a good rest here. I will call you on Luoluo's behalf after lunch is ready. Thank you, Brother Ika, it will definitely get better, because of Brother Ika's magic. Haha, I hope I can get better before being discovered by Luoluo. After saying their final goodbyes, Ika closed the door to Wei 11's room.